Well, hello and welcome to this short session on cost-saving strategies when managing a global patent portfolio with Cameron Intellectual Property. My name's Fiona McKenzie and today I'm joined by Stewart Cameron, a director of our business and an experienced UK and European patent attorney. So hello Stewart, and thank you for joining me.
Hi Fiona, yeah, no problem.
So today, Stuart's going to be sharing his experience on how to save money when managing a global patent portfolio and covering how this can be done in a variety of ways. So today we're going to look specifically at 5 areas. Firstly, intellectual property strategy. Secondly, new filings. Thirdly, prosecution. Then country selection and portfolio reviews. So Stewart, if I could ask you first about IP strategy, would you be able to give our audience some tips on some considerations at the initial planning stage which can impact on costs further down the line?
Yeah, I think the very first question people should ask is, why do I want to protect this invention? Answering that isn't always as easy as it sounds, and it can vary for different inventions. So it's an important question that even those who have already filed several patent applications previously and have got quite a bit of experience should always ask themselves. An example of that might be where the main aim might be to obtain very quick rights, which can be enforced, or it might be to provide a basis for licensing out the IP, or it might be to obtain investor funding, etc., etc. You know, there's lots of different permutations there, and so the correct strategy will always depend on the why. Mm-hmm. To give an example of a strategy, if the aim is to get quick rights to enforce against a competitor, then you wouldn't want to file only an international patent application under the international or the PCT filing system, since that is essentially a delaying process. And you might want to bear in mind that some places such as the European and German patent offices have a long, slow opposition process that could prevent enforcement. And there are lots of permutations of filing strategies, as I've said, depending on what it is that you're trying to achieve with your IP.
Okay, great. Thanks, Stewart. So moving on to the area of new filings, could you say a little bit about tips that you have in relation to the mechanics of new filings that could potentially have a cost-saving effect for our audience?
Yes, so not all patent applications are the same. There are some things you can do at the new filing stage to reduce costs if that's a big factor. For example, you can limit the number of pages in the application to, say, less than 20 pages to reduce translation costs. You can limit the number of claims to around 15, since that can save in excess claim fees depending on the jurisdiction. You can cover more than one invention in a single patent application with a view to dividing the application out later if needed. And if you're a repeat filer with a regular need to file new patent applications over any given year, then you can allocate pricing tiers to your patent attorney, for example, you know, so where you have the most important inventions in tier 1, medium commercial importance inventions in tier 2, and so on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes sense. Great. So you seem to be saying that really there's a lot of small things that you can do in this area to shave money off the overall cost of filing a patent application.
Yeah, that's right. It's basically about using as many of these features as you can in the right combination to achieve the best result, and it's simple as that. It's mentioning that as well as doing this at the filing stage to reduce costs, there are good commercial tactics you can use to essentially get others to pay or contribute to the patent filing costs through a commercial venture. So, for example, where company A collaborates with company B, you can agree for one or other of the parties to pay for the patent filing costs in return for some other benefits, such as a different royalty rate for company A or company B on any proceeds from the invention. But there's also external funding options for IP, such as EPSRC, EU funding, UK government funding, etc., etc.
Brilliant. I'm sure our audience will appreciate some of those tips. Great. So moving on now to what you can do during the prosecution of a patent application to keep your costs down. Could you go into that a little bit for us?
Yeah, so once the application has actually been filed, there are a few things you can do to control the size and, as importantly, the timing of costs. Some examples of that, you can use the international PCT application to slow down the costs. And within that, you can use something called a Chapter 2 demand within the PCT framework to get a more detailed level of examination during the PCT application, which can greatly reduce the downstream costs. It's also worth pointing out that if you're certain about which countries you will want to protect an invention in, then there is sometimes no point in incurring the cost of an international PCT application, or indeed potentially a European patent applications. Instead, you can actually file direct in the exact countries of interest. So, for example, if you are only interested in Germany and the UK within Europe, then a direct German and UK national application may be a cheaper, better, faster option for you, again, depending on a few factors. In essence, going back to the PCT, the PCT is more costly overall. It is an extra cost to have a PCT application, and a PCT never becomes a granted patent as such. It's really there to buy extra time, and so you can and should consider alternatives where you can essentially spend now to save later if your budget allows you to do that.
Good stuff. Thank you very much. Good inside knowledge there, and hopefully our audience will be able to apply that to their own portfolios. So I believe that that country selection can be used strategically to get maximum protection while keeping costs to a minimum.
Yes, be careful when choosing the countries in which to protect an invention. And what I mean by that is perhaps consider one or two countries by region. So, for example, if you need Canada, do you really need the US too, or vice versa? Consider selecting countries where there are good enforcement regimes. It's often not going to be a sensible use of a budget to file applications in places where you can't reasonably enforce the rights if enforcement is what you intend to do.
Okay, thanks, Stuart. Good advice. And of course, we're on hand to provide advice and expertise based on our knowledge of different regimes in different countries to help you apply this to your own situation. So finally today, Stuart, I wonder if we could look at portfolio reviews and how these can be used to keep on top of your budget and ensure you're getting maximum bang for your buck, if you like. Could you give us your main portfolio review tips?
Yeah, so the first point to make on that would be to be rigorous. And what I mean by that is if a patent does not cover an existing or a planned product, then consider abandoning selling or licensing the patents. And even for patents which you do feel are very important commercially, consider pruning the families down to retain rights in core countries only. Although nothing is for free, and this does reduce the geographical breadth of protection you have, it is certainly one of the best ways of reducing costs, and it's not always the case that owners of patent applications do that, in my experience.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks, Stuart. Appreciate your experience, and hopefully our audience today will go away armed with some solid strategies they can apply to their own global portfolio. So we're of course available if you'd like some specific help with your own portfolio. If you would like any help, please do just get in touch with Stuart or myself directly, or to view our website where you can access more helpful resources. That's at cameronintellectualproperty.com. You can also subscribe to our channel here on YouTube or follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook or Instagram. So we hope you've enjoyed today's session and we look forward to seeing you soon. So thank you and goodbye for now.